What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. What I am attempting to do for the first time is record a podcast and do it on Facebook Live at the same time. We're going to see how that works out. I have no idea. So if you're watching live, it would be awesome if you would give us some thumbs up, some hearts, maybe even drop a comment. We're going to see how this goes. I am going to talk a little bit about deeper, I guess, I don't know, maybe they're not deep, but I'm going to talk about business concepts. Specifically, the concept I want to cover is going to be thinking with useful thinking frameworks rather than guessing. Okay. By the way, if you get value from this podcast, would you do me a favor and share this? We rely on you guys, right? Like, we're not out here advertising this podcast. If you would be so kind as to actually recommend this podcast to a friend through social media. All right. Okay, let's get started, guys. Let's get started. So, by the way, if you can hear me, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart. If you cannot hear me, let me know. Because that would be a bummer, wouldn't it? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is my belief that most small business owners don't actually understand their business very well, if at all. Now, they might understand their service. They might understand their product. They might have a great understanding of maybe even their clients. However, oftentimes they don't understand their business. What happens that I see often, right, is that every single problem in business goes down to one of two answers. Okay, they will either arrive at the conclusion, small business owners will typically arrive at the conclusion that either it's a marketing problem or it's their people, right? They need to hire better people or they need better marketing. Now, if you ask them to define, well, what exactly needs to be better about your people? What exactly needs to be better about your marketing? Very often they don't have an answer. And they'll just say something along the lines of, well, I just need to shake it up, right? I just need to, I'm just gonna try something different. And the reality is that is not good enough. That is not going to produce results for you, right? If you look at the most successful people in the world, they have a very systematic way of thinking through their problems. All right. So what you'll typically see with a small business owner is they will basically say they'll reach the conclusion that, oh, it's my people, and they might take a little dip, or they'll reach the conclusion, oh, it's my marketing, and they'll be taking a bit of a dip, and they'll fire everyone, or they will, hire a new agency, and then they like get a boost back up, but inevitably they are at the exact same place that they were at before, right? They get back up, right? Maybe they were at $1 million, 100,000 a month. They drop down to 70, they get back up to 110,000 a month, but then they kind of drop back down and they hit the exact same plateau every time. And that should be a sign to you if you keep reaching the conclusion, oh, it's time for me to turn over my staff. I just need to turn over my staff every couple of years because, I need fresh faces in here. Or, we just go with a marketing agency for 6 months at a time because we need to get some new ideas in, right? That should be a sign to you that you are working on the wrong problems, right? These are particularly common when you reach about somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 to $2 million. So as you kind of cross that $1 million a year barrier, and then again, as you kind of get closer to sometimes it might be 3 million. If you have a really great product or service that's relatively easy to sell, it might be closer to 3 million. Okay. So it's typically the $1 million threshold where this starts to become a major issue. Hopefully this is making sense. So what happens at this point? Well, if you're a local business, one of the things that happens very often is your market gets a little bit tired of your message. It gets a little bit tired of your offer, and you kind of get them burned out. And it might require thinking time to solve marketing problems. Another thing that happens at about this time is the business owner typically tries to stop doing all the selling himself or herself, right? And they might find that all of a sudden, it's almost impossible for them to make sales, right? Because somebody else is doing the sales now, right? What that would tell you is that what you thought was a great selling system isn't a great selling system. So it would tell you have a systems problem, right? Maybe it's a management issue, usually at around $1 million to $2 million. What you do is your team gets to the size, maybe around 10 employees or so, or you know, whether they're full-time, part-time, contractor, doesn't really matter. But if your team gets to around 10, what you'll find is you don't get the yield from each employee that you need to get. And you don't properly systemize. Well, if you have, that would indicate that you have a management problem. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you this particular thinking framework. I'm going to give you a way of actually understanding what your issues might be. This is kind of like a very preliminary, very introductory look at, hey, can I put my problem into one of these frameworks? Okay. So if you're kind of stuck at that $1 million a year to $2 million a year range, and this is where you're starting to have issues, what I want you to do, by the way, if you're listening to this right now, this is going to be live in our Facebook group, and we also post it to YouTube. So there is going to be some visual stuff that I'm writing on the board here as I talk about this. So feel free to jump into that. So maybe what you need to do is have a framework for determining, is it a marketing issue? Is it a people issue? Right? Remember, what most people do is they think it's either marketing or people. It's either marketing or people. I got to fire my team and get new team, or I've got to get new marketing. Well, those are only the first two. Is it a management issue? Is it a systems issue, which I probably should have wrote before I wrote manage? Or number 5, is it a leadership issue? Okay. Now let's think through this for a second. What might the problem be if you're having a marketing issue? Okay. I'm going to grab my notes here. What might the problem, how do you know if it's a marketing issue rather than a people issue or a management issue, right? How about this? Some months we get 200 leads. Some months we get 500 leads. Sometimes we get 50 leads. Sometimes we get 100 leads. But no matter what, it seems like, actually, hold on a second here. No matter what, it seems like we always get the same number of new clients or new customers or new patients, right? Doesn't matter what our lead flow is, we get the same, roughly the same, or the increase isn't proportionate, right? So I don't necessarily get twice as many clients when I get twice as many leads, right? Does that scenario tell you that it's marketing or that it's something else? I would suggest that tells you that it's not marketing. I would suggest that what that's telling you is that, in fact, your problem is not a marketing issue. I would say that it's Definitely one of the others. Could be people, could be systems, could be management, could be leadership, right? What's a marketing issue? Here's one. Here's one that people don't think about. How about if you are dependent on one channel? Let's say that you run a lot of Facebook ads and you're getting a 10x ROI on your Facebook ads, right? So marketing, paid Facebook ads, and you get a 10x ROI. Now, let me ask you a question. Is that good? Is that acceptable? What many small business owners will do will be like, yeah, it's great. I'm happy with it, but I want a 15x ROI or I want a 20x ROI. And this guy told me that he could get me a 15 or a 20x. So what you're doing is you're saying this particular system is actually working very well in my business. I spend $1 and I make 10. So when I spend $5,000, I make 50. But that guy told me he could do better. So I'm going to break the system that's working and try to improve it. Okay. What if instead you added and just said, hey, maybe it's possible to get 15x, but I mean, like, it seems like I should be happy with 10x. And what if I just added other channels? What if I added YouTube? What if I added TikTok? What if I added cold prospecting, right? What if I'm a construction company and I just hired 5 kids during the summer to go door to door and just knock on doors, pay a minimum wage to introduce me and to get me in front of people for sales appointments, right? What if I'm a patient business? What if I'm a chiropractor and I hire someone to do nothing but reach out to attorneys and the bigger businesses, the bigger employers in my area? So they have to spend 2 to 3 hours a day reaching out to attorneys and 2 to 3 hours a day reaching out to the bigger employers in my area to set up engagements for me to go build partnerships with them so that I can get personal injury referrals and I can do wellness programs with the people in my town who have the best insurance. We can help you do that, by the way, in case you're wondering. But right. So what if you set up cold prospecting systems, right? So instead of breaking the 10x ROI, what if you decided, well, maybe I should just let the thing that's working well work, and I should just start adding these, right? But that's a good concept right there. That's a marketing problem, right? Like, in order to hit your goals, you need to add new channels, right? When you go about trying to solve it that way, you're going to get a much better result, aren't you? Okay, next. What are things that are people issues? Okay. What about a people issue? So let's imagine for a second that you have very crystal clear expectations. Let's imagine that you have scorecards in place, and this should really be the only time that you have a people issue. You have scorecards in place so that that person knows exactly what they need to do, and you can keep score of their performance. When you do that, you see that this person is not meeting the bar. You would also keep score of whether or not they meet your core values, because you need to know if they're a cultural fit. Okay. And you keep score of that. If you have 3 employees that consistently meet the mark and you have one who doesn't meet the mark, you then now know this is a people issue. How many small businesses, though, do not go through the trouble of doing that? How important is that? I would personally say it's very important, right? So you've got to have those clear expectations, and it's very clear that, in fact, Angie is the one who doesn't meet the mark. Okay. How about Management issues. This is an exact scenario I just spoke with someone about in the last week. They're having trouble getting everything done, and they're having trouble specifically with the function in their business of actually following up with leads and turning them into appointments. Okay. And here's the exact quote from this person. What I said was, it sounds like they don't know what the priorities are. It sounds like they don't know what the top priority is. And she said, no, they know exactly what the priorities are. They're just so busy because they have so many responsibilities that they don't know what to prioritize first. Now, I don't know if you heard what I just said, but I would say that's the exact definition of not knowing how to prioritize. So what I'm going to tell you is that what you are doing is overworking your people, and you're treating every single employee as an assistant type employee, right? Just like, hey, I need you to get things done. They're all kind of just runners. They're assistants, just pitch in and help out. And you aren't giving anyone specialized, specific job descriptions so that they can measure their performance objectively, instead of just measuring their performance on, holy crap, did I get everything done that the boss asked me to do? Holy crap, are they going to be happy with me? That is not the right way to manage a team. And that is what I would say is a management issue. So if you have employees that that they don't know how to prioritize, that's a management problem. You don't have management systems in your business, or you aren't executing on the management system. This can have a profound effect on your marketing, right? If you happen to do lead generation marketing, if you do advertising for leads, and you don't have a person who absolutely knows their primary responsibility is to schedule leads, how is that going to work out? How is that going to affect your marketing results? Hopefully the answer is obvious. Okay. What about systems issues? What is a system issue like? This is so common. And I will just tell you this. This is probably the most misdiagnosed thing when I speak to business owners, and it's a lot of them, who have crossed the $1 million mark and they are trying to push to $2 or $3 million. They struggle to admit that they need better systems. They struggle to admit that their system was custom made for their personality, and the only way to continue scaling is to get the exact same person as you. You need clones of yourself. And that is not a good way to scale, okay? So let me give you an example. It's most common with sales, right? So you hit that $1 million mark and you try to get out of making all the sales yourself, right? Or maybe you're at $1.5 million and it's like you're busy, you need to get out of the day-to-day, you're trying to get out of the selling, and you start hiring other people to do the sales. And what you realize is that they can't get anywhere near the results that you can get. And this is a huge point of pride for people. Everybody thinks that their system for selling is so great. And the bottom line is if you can't hire someone and they can't execute it within 50 sales interactions, if they aren't getting the result that you need them to get within 50, then you have either failed to train them properly, to give them a system that works, or to, I guess just to coach them to success. That is a failure of system. That is not a people failure. That is not someone who can't sell, and it is not a marketing problem, right? What most people would tend to do is blame the marketing or blame the person. But what you need to do is take responsibility and say, I either don't have my actual selling system isn't simple enough, or my actual onboarding of new people to make sales for me isn't effective enough. I'm just throwing them out to the wolves and hoping they figure it out. Okay. So that's a system issue, super common after $1 million that you'll notice that. Okay. What about leadership issues? Leadership issues might look something like this. And this is another exact quote. I told them what to do. I told them what they needed to do, and they didn't do it. I always tell them exactly what they have to do, and they never execute. Really. There's no way of describing that other than to say you do not have a culture of accountability or a results-based culture. That is a leadership issue. You have not done an effective enough job of communicating these are the goals. This is the vision. This is the mission that we're aimed at. And here's where we're going, and here's where we're going to get. Here's the specific target that we have. Here are the specific numbers that relate to that target. And then allowing your team to say, hey, here is my goal, which is exactly in line with the target, right? You have not done a good enough job of communicating that this is the direction that the bus is driving in, and this is where we're going. And if we're going to get there, we need people to sit on specific seats on the bus, and they need to do these specific jobs and drive these specific outcomes. If you have a culture where people always forget what the priorities are, if you have a culture where people are always told what to do, and then you have to go back and check if it got done, tell them what to do, check if it got done, it's exhausting. And it's the opposite of leadership because you don't have the accountability and you don't have the clarity on where you're headed. Okay. So those guys are a few items that I would suggest you look at, right? So is it a marketing? Is it a people? Is it a management? Is it a systems? Or is it a leadership issue? And those are a few ways, I think, probably the most common ways that you can go about diagnosing and actually, I guess, correctly identifying whether or not you're solving the correct problem. Because what I can tell you is that successful business owners, people that continuously grow and don't keep falling back and hitting up against the same plateau again and again and again, what they are doing differently is instead of saying, oh, that seems like a good solution, I'll try that. Oh, I guess I'll just shake it up. Oh, I guess I'll just try a new thing. What they are doing differently is they are putting their issues that they're experiencing into useful frameworks, and they're spending deliberate thinking time to identify the true issue, the true root cause, and they are solving that instead of just chasing rainbows and unicorns and, whatever, walrus farts, purple walrus farts. That's the term I'm going to use. The grass is always greener until you get there, guys. Don't go chasing. Don't go have grass is greener syndrome. If I just hire new people, then it'll be better. If I just get the new agency, then it'll be better. Guys, solve your business problems with a useful framework instead of chasing unicorns. All right, guys. It was great to talk to you. Please comment on the post if you saw this live. Comment if you saw this on YouTube. Let us know if you have any questions. And please, if you're listening to this, share the podcast. We really want to hear from you. We really want to get this out there. And we sure hope that we hear from you soon. All right, guys, take it easy.